Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. We missed last week. We had some technical issues with the recording, which would have been a would have been quite a mess. We certainly don't need both of us talking at the same time, let alone just one of us. So yeah, that didn't quite take. We had some really bad weather here, and that caused some connection failures and a whole bunch of issues. So anyway, we're not going to go into that, but we're here this week. NBA playoffs. We're getting into the meat of the first round here. We got NFL draft coming up next week, but a lot of stuff happened in the basketball world. But Clark, you had an opening topic you wanted to talk
Okay.
about.
Yeah. So, look, people are going to be into what they're going to be into. That's fine. But, you know, I mean, what really brought this on was, on Fox Sports Radio in the mornings, on the East Coast. It's Two Pros and a Cup of Joe, right? They just talk about the NFL or college football all the time. Okay? It doesn't matter what else is going on. That's all they talk about. Now, look, maybe that's their audience, whatever. But I'm just, that's kind of what brought this on. And I'm just like, guys, can we just be realistic about something? A lot of this draft stuff is not interesting. It legitimately isn't. They're trying to convince you that it is, and they keep telling you that it is, but it's really not. I mean, we like cover the draft, when it's happening, but the combine is not interesting. And people are like, oh, well, people care about it now. No, you don't. The sports media is telling you to care about it, and they keep airing stuff and they keep talking about it, but you really don't care. It's not interesting. A lot of this off-season stuff is like, oh, this guy worked out and this guy did this and this guy, he threw these passes and it was kind of nice and this test score said this and this said this. It's like, this stuff really isn't that interesting. I mean, if there's a big trade, like, I guess who's they got the number one pick now?
So
Carolina.
Carolina traded to the
Yeah.
number one pick.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay, you know, but I just a lot of this stuff we just go on and on and on about it, and it's like, guys, there's actual games going on. I mean, hell, you could talk about is it the XFL or the USFL? I can't remember.
Both. Well, the USFL right now, but then the
Right,
XFL
right.
will be.
Um, there's NBA playoffs going on. There's hockey playoffs going on. Which, to be honest, I should probably watch more hockey because those playoffs are always more fun because you never know what the hell's going to happen. Um, Baseball's going on, obviously. So I just, it's just one of these things that's really starting to annoy me where it feels like the media is telling us, like, this is what you need to care about. And to be honest, we really don't care about this. I don't. I know a lot of other people are probably getting sick of it. It's just like, I don't, like, well, what do you think about Anthony Richardson? Well, I think if he goes here, like, you have no idea. By the way, Mel Kiper, have you ever looked up his record on things that he said are going to happen that don't? He thought Jimmy Clausen was going to be a franchise QB. He sucked in the NFL. He thought Jamarcus Russell was like the second coming. I mean, he thought he was going to be unbelievable, and he was a complete disaster. So I just, a lot of these predictions, it's just, and it's funny because, like, I think the comedian Bill Burr talks about this, and he makes some jokes about it. He's like, why are we going on and on about the draft? It's like the dude hasn't even played yet. And Dan Le Batard's saying the same thing. It's like, how can you grade these teams? These guys haven't even played yet. And that's totally true. Like, you don't have any idea, really. I mean, we can sit here and quibble about, well, I don't think they should draft this guy, or I don't think they should draft that guy. And, to a greater or lesser extent, there could be some truth to that. But, overall, guys, this national addiction to football, we gotta pull back a little bit. The games are really good. And I do like talking, if there's a big trade, I can understand that. But to do that to the exclusion of almost everything else, where it's just football all the time, like, guys, come on. This is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like you're arguing against a gigantic corporation, you know what I mean? It's the NFL, the NFL cycle is what creates all of these shows. I mean, let's be honest. If there wasn't the NFL, a lot of this stuff wouldn't exist. So I think that's that's part of the issue. But I do agree with you, like, there isn't really that much that happens. Like, we thought Bryce Young would go number 1 when the college football season ended. He's going to go number 1. So all of this stuff hasn't really changed that much. Now, Anthony Richardson has been the guy who's gone flying up the draft board. because of his talent. But now the whole thing's flipped. Now it looks like Houston is talking about, well, maybe they won't take a quarterback, and maybe some of these guys will fall a little bit because there aren't that many teams that might draft a quarterback. So yeah, it's kind of, a lot of it is nonsense because it literally means nothing, because you can't count on any of it, and we don't, we can't predict what's going to happen. You got to wait, and you got to wait and see. Plus, these teams are all, at this point, putting out nonsense, like misinformation, that's none of it's true. So I agree with Ryan Leaf was on the Dan Patrick show a couple months ago, and he was like, listen, after the Super Bowl ends until the draft, you can't believe anything teams say.
Yeah.
So if you go with that, you go with that thought process. Now, I do think talking about some of it is interesting, but I agree with you. Not at the expense of the things that actually matter right now. When we're in do or die playoff games.
Yeah. Well, and I was just, and the other thing is that just, let's be honest here. Some of this analysis just sucks. I mean, it absolutely sucks. I mean, the downplaying of the fact that Bryce Young is extremely small, like, that's just one example. And then Anthony Richardson, he's barely played. Like, and teams are like, oh, well, and first of all, that Ryan Leaf comment is perfect. I mean, you can't really take anything seriously that they say. But I just get annoyed with the seemingly the lack of caution with, like, anything with the draft. Is like, oh, you should probably take this guy because this guy could be, blah, blah, blah. He could be amazing, and it's like, do you, what? Like, Mac Jones is the most NFL ready quarterback, that's there. And it's like, okay, well, what are you really saying there? Are you saying you can win the Super Bowl with this? Like, what? I just feel like there's a lot of bad analysis, and there's a lot of times where people are talking about it, and it's like, again, if you don't like the NBA, fine. But I mean, then you got people who just literally, like, they make a living, like Clay Travis and his site. They'll talk about football, pro football, college football, baseball, and then they will. The only time they talk about the NBA is to turn it into a political issue and rip it apart and be like, oh, well, they're in league with China and whatever, and they don't actually want to talk about the games. So it's just, yeah, it's just an annoying thing, and it's like, guys, like, the whole national addiction to football. It's like, oh, we're just addicted to it. No, you're not just addicted to it. They've been selling you on it for years now. Like, it's not just that. And it's like, oh, like, I got to keep paying attention. Well, maybe you have a gambling addiction. Like, there's that too. Like,
Yeah, and if you watch, like, Colin Cowherd, I mean, he's saying, look, the combine, like, is completely useless at this point. Like, he's like, I take it as a grain of salt because these guys gear up for 6 weeks. They get themselves all jacked, then to do good stuff at the combine. Whether they're going to actually play well in the NFL is not even related to that at all. So it's like, and more people watch it now than ever, but it's more useless than ever. So that's kind of the funny part. It's just like when we laugh about people watching the NFL Pro Bowl. It's just like, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's just I don't.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, well, speaking of people gearing up, okay. Before, like, a bodybuilding thing or like a boxing match or UFC fight, they have to hit a certain weight, so they spend all this time training, and then the last few days or something, they have to cut weight, so they have to watch how much they eat, and they got to do all this stuff just to make that very specific weight. So it's like, look, if you want to just appear, if you want to be a certain weight or something at a certain point, you can do it. It's pretty fun. It's, I mean, not easy, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, it's like you get a trainer, you do so much for a few weeks. It's like when actors are getting ready for a movie role, like Bradley Cooper when he played that sniper. Like, he had to put on a bunch of muscle, or the same thing with, like, Ben Affleck when he played Batman. Like, right. you spend a few months putting on all this, and it's like, yeah, you can get really jacked for that specific amount of time, but that doesn't mean that that's how you are normally.
Yep. It's like when Bryce Young comes in at 204, and we're all like, he's not 204. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you that, but it is, the thing is, the draft is bigger than ever now. It is an entire industry. And as a television product, I like it. Like, I think it's pretty cool, but
yeah, the draft itself, I think, is fine.
Right.
I'm not necessarily saying that, but I just, I don't know. There's so much going on and on and on about it between the Super Bowl and the draft. And I just feel like a lot of it's just noise. It's just crap. So
yeah, there's not that much to say. I just we'll see how it goes.
When is the
Well,
draft? That shows
it's
you
this
how
it's
locked in
this
I am.
this week,
Oh,
Thursday.
okay.
So yeah, well, I had a couple of, just since we're talking about the draft, there was just a couple things that, like I already said, no, Bryce Young is going number one. It looks like whatever's going to happen is going to start at the second pick. That's going to be where it gets interesting as to who takes a quarterback and when. And so, that will be kind of interesting. This week, Bijan Robinson became a hot topic. He's probably the best running back that's going to be in the draft. And of course, running backs have been completely devalued. So, you know, people are debating whether he should be a first round. Basically, they're saying like everyone thinks he's a top 5 talent, but they're not sure whether he should go in the first round. Yeah, so I think some of the quarterbacks may drop. I think Hendon Hooker might get picked in the first round from Tennessee. He might go
Okay.
late first round. I think that might actually people. That's a lot of talk lately about that. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens. I think we've talked about this before, but I think Bryce Young should be drafted. I think he should be drafted in the first round. I don't know that I would have the guts to take him number one and to trade a bunch of stuff and take him number one. And here's my thought on it is this. Look, I think Bryce Young is either going to be really good or he's not going to work out. I don't think he's going to come in and be average. I don't think that's going to happen. He's either going to be great and it's going to work, or it's not going to work. Because I don't think with a guy that size, I don't think there's margin for error. You either have to be exceptional, or you're not going to make it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's like Kyler Murray is like, well, and he's had problems now, but he had to be he's exceptional as an athlete, and also his arm talent was really good. So, yeah.
Yeah, if Bryce Young was as athletic as Kyler Murray, we'd be having a different conversation.
Right,
But
exactly.
yeah, I so that's my thought process. I know Colin Cowherd's out here saying everybody doesn't have to be a 401k. If you have him for 3 years and he stabilizes your organization, well, and it's like
You
you're
don't pick
taking
a guy.
him
We've talked about this before, but
right.
you don't pick a guy number one for 3 years.
Right. It's like that's not how this works. Like he's either going to hit or not.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Anyway, so we'll move on from that. So we talked about this on last week, but we didn't get to put it out there that Draymond Green got ejected from a game last week against the Sacramento Kings, and then got suspended for Game 3, which the Warriors won. I just want to point that out as a disclaimer. So yeah, I was amazed at how up in arms everybody got about this. You've got people on certain shows going, "Well, you're going to mess up the play." By the way, only people making this argument are all sports writers. Nobody with like who has like a media presence and a television show. Nobody else was doing that. But it's like the classic sports writer move. The NBA has overstepped their bounds here, and they're going to mess up the playoffs. And there's going to be an asterisk next to this series now because of what they've done here. And so I was actually kind of happy the Warriors won, and now they just won Game 4. So I'm kind of happy it's 2-2, so everybody can shut the hell up about, oh, you're ruining the series because you ejected Draymond. Listen, or excuse me, suspended Draymond. Look, I don't have any sympathy for Draymond. You did this to yourself. Like, you created the situation where you're going to be looked at a certain way, and you know that. You've been in the NBA for 11 years. Like, you know what the situation is. So this is on you. And listen, if the NBA didn't suspend him, would I think it's like a travesty? No. But you can't be sitting there saying it's outrageous that he's suspended. It's not outrageous. It's actually very matter of fact, very sensical. You know, it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
I don't see how you can possibly complain about this.
Well, real quick, I did want to point out the just okay. You mentioned the people are like, oh, there's going to be an asterisk next to the next to this. Okay, let me just point something out. Generally in sports, there are very few asterisks next to anything, and I'm using that almost metaphorically. There's very few events in sports where we look back on years and years later and go, that was unfair. That team got screwed. Okay, there's a few, you know, but I mean there's so many different events that happen, and then people forget about the context, and they just go, no one thinks there's an asterisk. I mean, is there an asterisk when the Pistons won their first title because Magic Johnson and James Worthy didn't play that much? No. Everybody forgets about that. You know, is anybody saying that LeBron only won only won two titles and there's two asterisks, one for the pandemic and another for Ray Allen bailing his ass out and Tim Duncan missing a gimme shot in Game 7? No. Everyone says LeBron has four titles. So this idea that there's going to be an asterisk next to anything, I mean, is there an asterisk next to the Raptors winning the championship because Kevin Durant got hurt? Not really. People don't really say that. They said it right after the fact, but no one really says that now. They're just like, oh, the Warriors, the Raptors won, and Kawhi Leonard got another Finals MVP. So stop with the whole asterisk thing. They don't like. There's an asterisk with Barry Bonds. Okay, that's one example where people like look back on it and they go, oh, And then there was like that the U.S. Men's basketball team had that game in what was it, the 80s or the 70s where they just got screwed. Like, yeah, people look back and they go, yeah, they really got screwed. That was messed up, But again, those events are few and far between. No, people don't put asterisks next to stuff. After a few years go by, everybody forgets.
Yeah, I think that it got completely, it was perfect for the media because everybody got to sound off and go crazy. And, it does, again, it concerns me that, like I thought I had no problem with Draymond being suspended. It concerns me that Clay Travis agreed with me. Again, that bothers me for other reasons. But regardless, there's nothing, it's the correct take. There's nothing wrong with it. Like and the NBA came out and told you his past history was a part of it. And everybody's like, and then you got Bill Simmons going, oh, that's a dangerous precedent. You can't be saying that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I'm glad the NBA is honest about it because we know it's part of it. We all know that's part of the deal. And that's part of life, by the way. Your resume matters. It will speak for you. So no, I don't feel bad. I don't feel like Draymond got railroaded. I find it hysterical or hilariously funny that the Warriors are mad at the league and not mad at fucking Draymond. It's like,
So real quick, let me just say that, I agreed with him being suspended. I agreed with him being kicked out of the game. I don't think it's ridiculous. I'm really tired of these people. Oh, well, Sabonis started it. Well, are you in the 8th grade? Like, seriously, Sabonis started it. I mean, okay. Did he grab onto him? Yeah. But then it's like, oh, well, where's Draymond supposed to step? Oh, I don't know. You're not supposed to plant your foot in the guy's abdomen and then jump off of him. Like this is the WWE right. And you're climbing up on the top rope and jumping down on somebody. Like what?
Yeah, when you add in the past history, the actual act of stepping on him, and then going and trying to incite the crowd afterwards, it's like, dude, I mean, I don't know what to say anymore. It's like, how am I supposed to protect you from you're being a dumbass? What do you want me to say? At this point?
And the other thing is, people don't understand. I think people people forget how quickly something can get out of control. Okay. And so the league, that's for instance why years ago, we had the last time we had one of these really controversial suspensions in my mind was Amari Stoudemire getting suspended in 2008. Remember? Right. Because he got up off the bench and people were like, well, how can you suspend him for that? It's like, well, they were only 4 years removed from the Malice at the Palace. And they're just trying to say, we cannot have you getting up because we can't have stuff escalating because things could get out of control. And that's terrible for the league. Okay. And Draymond doing that with the crowd is a really bad look, okay? Because he's kind of out of control and he's riling other people up, and you don't know what the hell could happen. You don't know what kind of nutcase might be in the crowd who could just start something and then it just escalates and gets completely out of control. Like that's how those things happen. Like one little thing sparks it and then it goes completely apeshit, okay? So, like. People are like, oh, you can't overreact that much. No. Sometimes you need to overreact to prevent things from going, spiraling in a way that you couldn't have imagined. So don't sit there and go like, oh, well, it's fine. Well, just let the guys play. To a certain extent, you let them play, but to a certain extent, and it feels like the league right now is pushing back on a lot of stuff because Harden got kicked out of the game, right? Did Embiid got
a flagrant one, yeah.
Yeah. Dylan Brooks just got kicked out of the game last night.
By the way, what's with hitting the players in the balls? What the hell's going on?
I think for years some players have tried to get away with it, and maybe they have. But I think the league is kind of, for whatever reason, it feels like, I could be wrong, it feels like there's an extra emphasis on this. And I think there's a good reason. Like I said, you don't want stuff getting out of control, and people think, oh, nothing's going to happen. That's what people always think. And then something, they couldn't have predicted the Malice at the Palace happening. So,
Right.
Again, there was a lot of other stuff that went into that, but it's just, you have to be cognizant of that. Otherwise, things just, you lose control of the situation, and then all of a sudden people are like, I don't want to go to an NBA game. I mean, that is, I think, at least part of what the league is thinking.
Yeah, there's really two things that really bother me that a bunch of people have been saying the past couple of weeks. Is the number one is the Sabonis started it. That, which, by the way, I'm not sold he grabbed his foot. You can tell me that he did, and I probably will believe you, but I've watched it a bunch of times. When you try to grab somebody's foot, you don't put your elbow on your forehead. When you grab somebody's foot, you grab them with your hand. So I'm a little confused as to how we've all arrived at that's definitely happened. I'm not convinced of that, but I'll give you that. The other thing is that, what's Draymond's history? What, is his history going to follow him around forever? So they're talking about on Get Up the next day after this happened, Jason Williams is going, so the 2016 finals were going off 7 years ago? And it's like, no, he's got 160 technicals in the NBA. He's had 17 flagrant fouls, several, 4 ejections. Like, the guy, no, we're not pulling the history out of our ass. Like, look at it. He's like, so that's it. So it never goes away. You never get to wipe the slate clean. It's like, and by the way, it was perfect that it was Jason Williams, because it's like, no, Jason, we're all going to remember you as the guy who got into the NBA and got on a fucking motorcycle and screwed up his career. So yeah, it doesn't go away. You will always be remembered for that. Just like Draymond will always be remembered for all the stupid shit he does. Like, it's just unbelievable to me that I couldn't believe people are trying to wipe away what's his history really? Is it really that bad? It's like,
really?
I mean, I just...
So he tried to punch LeBron in the balls when he stepped over him. So he got kicked out of a game last playoffs. So what?
So he gets 15 technicals every single year. It's just like, it's amazing to me how people are just willing to go, it's a playoff game, so nothing counts. That's it. We shouldn't do anything normal because it's a playoff game. So, blah, blah, blah.
The other thing I pointed out after he got suspended, people are like, well, back in my day, we're not back in your day, bro. It's right. 2023. Okay. Sorry. It's not the 80s. You can't get away with that shit anymore. They didn't have flagrant fouls back then. We have flagrant fouls now. Okay. And other things have happened where they've decided they need to come down harshly on some of this stuff, because you can't you can't just allow people. And granted, they've maybe allowed Draymond to get away with a little too much over the years. Maybe they haven't come down harshly enough. And I think maybe they're sort of recalibrating now, because they're like, you know what? We've let this go a little too much. We need to kind of... Now, that being said, if you think suspending Draymond's going to get him to change his behavior, you've got another thing coming, because there's no way in hell that guy's changing.
He's come out and said it. I'm not changing.
Exactly.
It's like, all right, well, your suspensions are going to get longer then. Hope you're prepared for that. So look, I think getting to that Sixers Nets game where with all the kids.
Real quick, can I just say this? There's one more thing I wanted to point out about Draymond. Okay. While I'm saying that he should have been suspended, and I don't have a problem with it, and I don't have a problem with him being ejected from the game, and while I think that he pushes stuff too far, I'm starting to hear some people go, well, I don't think I want that guy on my team. Okay. Without Draymond, they don't win any titles. You can complain about 2016 and say, well, he robbed him of a title by getting himself suspended, and that's a fair point. But, okay, fine. Then you're saying if he hadn't got suspended there, they would have had 5 titles. But if he didn't play the way that he played, they wouldn't have any. Okay?
Right.
Dan Patrick's like, I don't think I want him on my team. He's still a really good defender. He still kind of makes things go on their offense. And Steve Kerr has even said, and by the way, Nick Wright is like, yeah, he's done. He's not going to play for the Warriors anymore, like after this season. Bullshit. He will be playing on the Warriors next year for the entire season. Okay, I don't care if he opts out. Well, I don't care if he opts out or whatever. They're going to keep him there because he's extremely important. And Steve Kerr has said that, and a bunch of guys on and by the way, people are like, oh, the team's got to be sick of this. I mean, look, we can trust what they say, as much as we want to or not, But I mean, Steve Kerr and Bob Myers and the other players, it doesn't seem like they're ready to kick him out. They understand how important he is. And does he cross the line? Yes, he crosses the line. And there's a risk you run with that. But again, let me point out, they got 4 rings, okay? 4. They've been to the finals 6 times, okay? That doesn't happen without Draymond Green. So save me the whole, I don't want him on my team. Because let me tell you something, with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, you ain't winning shit, okay?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it just comes down to honestly, like, um, if the Warriors lose the series, there may be changes. If they lose in the first round this year, there could be
Right.
some changes coming. But it's always worked out for them, right? They make the finals. Sometimes they lose in the finals. Sometimes they don't. But they always, they do pretty well. So if they have a disappointing result here, then maybe we'll see. But yeah, I agree with you. The I don't think the Warriors are anywhere near as concerned about Draymond as a teammate than as the media is.
Yeah.
I don't think this is as simple as, oh well, that's it, that's the last straw.
Well, and
We'll
also,
see.
consider, Nick Wright's opinion on personnel moves in the NBA is really spotty. Kevin Durant's going to go to the Knicks. That Andrew Wiggins trade for the Warriors is terrible. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I couldn't believe the Philadelphia Brooklyn game the other night. So I mean, Embiid basically, Claxton, dunks on Embiid and then steps, over him, or walks over and puts, straddles the top of him, which I was just like, why are we doing that? And
Well, it's like
so
Scottie Pippen did to Patrick Ewing in like '94. It's the
right.
same thing. You're trying to intimidate him.
So, Embiid kicks up. I don't know whether he gets him in the groin, in the nether region. I don't know what happens. And they just give him a flagrant one. And it's really bizarre how, he basically tried to kick him in the, tried to kick him in the
Yeah.
balls. And, then he doesn't get ejected. And then there's a play where Harden is just kind of fending the defender off and hits him in the balls. But it wasn't like Harden was cheap shotting the guy. And, they kick Harden out. And it's very confusing now. I don't know what we're doing with flagrant fouls. Like, I feel like we need to clean this up a little bit. And the other thing is, like, and even last night, like Dylan Brooks hitting LeBron James in the balls. What is with the punching people or kicking people in the between the legs? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole thing's really weird. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I like, if you told me, all right, Embiid should have been ejected and not Harden, I tend to agree with that. I think, Embiid's definitely should have been kicked out of the game, and Harden, you could have let him stay in there. I didn't see any reason why he needed to be ejected. So I don't know what I think the NBA is going to have to clarify what they're talking about when they talk about flagrant fouls, because this doesn't make a lot of sense. And obviously with Draymond, if Draymond gets another flagrant two, he's going to be suspended for a game. So and the same thing with Harden.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, but that being said, the Philadelphia 76ers managed to win that series. They swept them, even with Embiid not playing in Game 4. So I just want to go through the series here and ask talk about it, ask some questions. So, I mean, the Sixers, like, obviously Joel Embiid's health is number one, right? They're saying he basically probably wouldn't have been able to play if there was a Game 5, but he does have some time off to get ready for Boston. I mean, look, when I watch Philadelphia, what I see is I feel I feel bad for Embiid, because I feel like the guy is doing everything out there, and it's like, could we get him some help, please? Like, could we help the guy out, because he is getting. And Doc Rivers was talking about this last week, that we got to the guys are going after the star players, and I guess that's true. I don't know whether that's a legitimate point or not, but he's basically saying that they're going after stars, and when the stars retaliate, they get the technicals and get in trouble, get kicked out of games, and that's all that these guys are trying to do. And while I understand that, I understand what he's saying, but I also think players need to keeping your cool and understanding, responding to a situation correctly is important. I think that's what you got to do. But I just think I have the same concerns about Philadelphia that I've had the whole year. Like, can we count on James Harden? And Barkley was saying this the other day on TNT that, listen, we don't have James Harden out there to lead the league in assists. He's got to score more. That's the only way they're going to beat Boston or Milwaukee is by him scoring. So
Yeah, they got to. I mean, but again, that's we don't expect Philadelphia to make it to the finals because we just expect James Harden to not give you, And the thing is, Harden, he relies a lot on in his prime. He relied a lot on getting foul calls, and the way he would drive to the basket was just trying to get you to touch him so he could get a foul call and maybe an and one. So, and he doesn't really get that in the playoffs. So, and now he's older. He hasn't really, taken the best care of himself. He apparently likes to go out at night a lot. So, he's not really aging gracefully. And yeah, it's as if you're a Sixers fan, what you got to be most concerned about is them signing James Harden after this season, because that would be a colossal mistake. He's not anywhere near what he used to be. And if the last couple of years are any indication, his decline over the next few years is going to be pretty bad. So, yeah, it sucks for Embiid that they waited way too long with the Ben Simmons thing. Oh, by the way, Ben Simmons tweeted that he was really unhappy about his team getting swept and he never wants to experience that again, which I just thought was really funny. But anyway, the Sixers, they waited too long on the Ben Simmons thing. They should have made that move a few years ago. Imagine if they had kept Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I think that he held Daryl Morey held out to try to make a deal for Simmons. And I just feel like again, I go back to this. Like I've been saying for a year now, the Harden Simmons trade is a disaster.
Yep.
And it's not going to work out for either team. And they would have been better off trading Ben Simmons for role players, because you look at it, Tyrese Maxey looks like a real guy now. Is he going to be the second best player on a championship team? I don't know, but he looks like a legit guy. You have all these role players around him. They now have the two wings, McDaniels and DeAnthony Melton. Like, if you'd have just gotten some role players to fill in around Embiid, I really think they would have been better off.
Yeah, so, you look at who they'd be competing against, Milwaukee and Boston, and it's like, all right, well, you need to have perimeter defense. You need to have some guys who can make threes. Is it nice to have another star? Absolutely, but if you have a functional team and you can play defense, you can hit threes, and Embiid can do his thing, then you can be competitive with Milwaukee and Boston. So, yeah, they chose to go another way. We'll see. If they really go all in and sign Harden, that would be, again, that's a colossal mistake.
Yeah. So for the let's move on to the Suns and the Clippers. This series kind of turned out to be a real disappointment. It just it's too bad that the way Kawhi looked in the first two games. It's really too bad that he couldn't stay healthy. But well, we'll talk about Kawhi Leonard in a minute because I have some thoughts on that. But I just think it's really funny, the media's reaction to this, where it's like, oh, wow, the Phoenix Suns are really thin. They're having to play Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Chris Paul a lot of minutes. Oh, man, this is really a problem. And it's just kind of like, you didn't see this coming?
Yeah, you didn't look at what they traded away? Like, what are you talking about?
So it amazes me that people are just like, oh, this is kind of an issue, and then Colin Cowherd's like, yeah, I might have been too strong on the Suns. They need another guy, and it's like, yes, of course they do. They're getting some good production from Torrey Craig right now, but it's just going to be hard to get through an entire playoff run, without a real sixth or seventh man on your team.
Yeah.
So. I think it's I do think Phoenix will be pretty good. Give them a little bit of time. I think they need an off season to kind of fill in some more guys and make this work a little better. But yeah, it's really just it's disappointing. The Clippers. This is what 4 years of 4 years they've been together, and they made a conference finals run in 2021, but they really have nothing. They don't have anything besides that to show for it. And so it's a little disappointing, but I do disagree with the people that are like Colin Cowherd, who's like, well, we got to move off Kawhi now. Like, that's it. Got to move off him. Got to get him out of here. And it's just like, yeah, I'd love to. It's not that easy. Yeah. Like, it'd be great. I'd love to live on the planet where we can just cut everybody. Yeah, it was whatever. We'll just get rid of them. I'd love to live in that world, but I'm sorry, that's not how it works. So no, I don't think the Clippers are going to be like, well, let's move off him then, because he's hurt. And the thing is, I want to point out about Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard has a chronic issue. This is not, oh my God, he's choosing not to play, or he just wants to take it easy, or they're being too cautious or anything like that. He's got chronic issues. Like, when you watched him in the finals in 2019, he's dragging the other leg around. He was able to go really well in short, periods of time. Like, yeah, he's got a lot of health issues. It's not like, oh man, well, load management doesn't work. It's like, no, that's the only way he'd be able to play at all. This isn't him, like, trying to. I think I disagree with everybody. I think Kawhi works really hard to try to stay in the right shape and get himself ready to play. And you see how good he is when he does.
Yeah.
So, yes, do I think it's a problem? And the it's not like the Clippers didn't know this when they signed him. Like, this didn't come out of left field. This didn't start last year. The fact that he's still, able to play at a pretty high level is pretty amazing, to be honest. So, yeah, I think people should give Kawhi a little bit of a break. Guys get hurt. Yes, it's disappointing that all this has happened. I understand that. But what you going to trade Kawhi for what? For a bunch of role players that aren't going to make you any better? Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing is that I don't want to go into a whole load management thing, but guys, if you're going to talk about that and then blame injuries on that, like, I need to see some data, because I don't know how true that is. And people are like, oh, people played all the time, they didn't get hurt as much. Well, the league is different. It's better. It's more skilled. I think it's harder to play defense now than it used to be. And also, I mean, guys, like, this is just like, you know that, like, if you do something, there's a reason why, like, when you're working out, you need days off to, like, recuperate and let your body recover. Okay. And, I think there's probably data that's showing that, yeah, it probably is dangerous to play 2 NBA games 2 nights in a row, especially if you're playing like 30 minutes a night, given all the running you're doing, whatever else. I remember Tim Legler was on, it was probably Mike and Mike or something. This was way back in the day. But he was talking about when he played, he blew out one of his knees. And he said that basically, I think he was saying he had like a back-to-back. And the second night, his quads were really sore, right? Well, if your quads are sore and they're not taking on as much weight as they're supposed to, that's putting more strain on your knees. And then guess what happened? He blew out one of his knees. Okay? So the idea that, oh, well, you just got to play all the time, and then well, that's not really true. Now, the idea that, like, well, you should only play a little bit here and there, well, maybe there's probably something in between there. And also, again, I think there's so many factors going on here. I mean, some guys, are they more injury prone? Well, I mean, some of them may not take care of themselves that well. Some of them may, once you have one injury, you're more likely to have more. Okay, Kevin Durant's had a bunch of injuries, so that kind of makes sense. Kawhi Leonard, he's had some injuries throughout his career, and obviously he's got some sort of chronic knee issue. Paul George gets hurt quite a bit, but it's like, you get hurt once, you're probably going to get hurt again. So LeBron stayed healthy for a bunch of years. He took great care of himself. And then eventually, he started breaking down every year. So I just think it's way too complicated to just say, well, they're not playing enough and that's why they're getting hurt. I don't know that that's the case, And also, again, the way that they play, I mean, in the 80s, guys were like, they're in the locker room smoking cigarettes and having a beer after the game, and then they're still going out there and playing the next night. But again, it was a different game. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know what it is, but I just think there's a lot of really poor, lazy analysis of this, where it's just so easy to say, oh, they're just not playing enough, and that's why.
Yeah, so I mean, my whole thought process is, look, 82 games, like, to me, the 82 games thing should be done. The only reason we play 82 games is because that's what they did 60 years ago. There's no good reason for us to do that. And teams are not struggling financially like they were. That's why they needed all those games. Like, we don't need that anymore. Like, honestly, if you ask me, play every other team in the league twice. That's 58 games. Put in a couple of season tournaments, so maybe somebody gets up to 65. That's all we really need. So, I know that'll never happen because they'll never walk away from the money. But I think that's kind of the point we've hit. And I hope all these injuries don't ruin the playoffs any more than they already have. But I think that's going to kind of be the way the NBA is now. You could go back and basically look at a whole bunch of years where, an injury here or there basically derailed somebody. Health is always a part of it, but I think that's kind of the way that it's going to be now. And it's going to be, we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, just what are the injuries we got? So we got Kawhi, we got Jimmy Butler just hurt himself yesterday. I think Victor Oladipo just blew his knee out. I know he's a bench player, but he was giving him some good minutes.
Embiid,
Tyler Hero
Giannis
broke his hand.
Yep.
Embiid is out.
Right. Giannis is out.
Ja Morant was out.
Yep.
And now, again, look, cross your fingers with guys like Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis and LeBron. We'll see. Or Chris Paul, for that matter.
Yeah.
I don't want any injuries to happen. I hope they don't. But it's just those older guys.
It's one of the reasons when we talked about the playoffs before they started, we were like, a lot of these things are going to come down to health.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest concern about Phoenix, is the biggest concern about the Lakers. Like, are they going to be able to stay healthy? All right. So moving on. How the hell are the Miami Heat up 2-1 on Milwaukee? This is pretty wild. It's all I can say. Like, I was laughing at people who were like, the Heat have no chance. And listen, Giannis is out, so that's the only reason that we're talking about this.
Well, the series is going to go 6 games, so the fact that Miami at least got this to go to 6 games is pretty. Granted, Giannis is out. That's why. But as a Heat fan, it is a little disappointing. Jimmy Butler was playing really well, and then he fell on his back and screwed his back up. I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but that's kind of a scary injury. I don't know. And
they lost Tyler Hero, they lost Oladipo. Like, it's literally like Miami's not going to have enough guys to finish the series anyway.
Oladipo just literally went for a layup and blew his knee out. I think I haven't looked up what exactly happened, but God.
Yeah, torn patellar tendon.
Oh Jesus! Okay.
So it really sucks. I feel really it's one of those things that's really sad.
Well, yeah, because it took him so long to come back because he had so many injuries and stuff, and he actually came back and he was playing. He was coming off the bench, but he was playing well. Like, he was, he was playing good enough to be out there on the floor. He was
playing pretty well, and you could tell how much it mattered. Like, that game was silent after he got hurt, and everybody was
So it's just
with their head in their hands.
The Heat still, like, even if they somehow pull this series off, they need to make some changes because they just don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower, but I don't know what they're going to do. So.
Yeah. So the Grizzlies and the Lakers. I've been distrusting of the Lakers this whole time, and like every game, I'm just really confused by them. Like, they play, game 1 and game 3, they look absolutely awesome, and everybody's contributing, and it looks fantastic. Game 2, it looks like they decided not to show. Game 2 against Memphis, and then the play-in against Minnesota, they basically just decide not to show up until the third quarter. And so, I just I don't know how I can trust. Like, this series is going 6 or 7 games, I think. I just don't know how am I supposed to trust this Lakers team, and I think the Lakers win the series probably eventually, just because the matchups go their way. But I don't feel good about it. And LeBron, I don't know. He drove to the basket a little more in the highlights I saw from the game last night, but I just feel like, I don't know, man. Either he's pacing himself, he's worried about the injury. I'm not sure what's going on there, but they're going to need, like, big time. LeBron's going to have to be really awesome if they're going to really go anywhere. And, with Anthony Davis kind of up and down every game, I find this hard. It's going to be difficult when you're that inconsistent.
Right. Yeah. There's times they can look pretty good. They can play good defense. They can hit some shots. So I guess I understand the optimism from some people on them. I can see it, but yeah, LeBron. I mean, LeBron's got so much experience and he's so smart that he'll get his numbers.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you're like, oh, he's got 25 points. All right, I guess so. Yeah, I guess he hit that one shot and then he got that shot in transition, and then it's like yeah, but he never really took over the game. Now again, I don't know what's going on. I think it's probably some combination of he's pacing himself or he's worried about that injury. Like you were talking about a few weeks ago, like they just didn't do surgery on that. Like he's going to need surgery in the off season. So yeah, you got to be cautious because if something snaps or whatever, then yeah, that's it. He's out for the playoffs. So
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. It's like it's up and down. Like yeah, I don't really trust the Lakers, but you look at the matchups. Like if the Warriors have to play the Lakers, you can't feel good about that if you're the Warriors. Like
yeah, if you get a couple really good games out of Anthony Davis, I mean, like
yeah, you don't want that. Like that's not what you want. You get.
well,
I mean,
and
it's
by
kind
the
of
way, guys, look at the scores in these Warriors games. Okay, today was what 126, 125.
right.
Yeah. So they're giving, and that was at home. Okay. Now, granted, they played the two road games against Sacramento in Sacramento. Those were close. So I guess you gotta have hope. But it's like the Warriors still have to win a road game to win this series. Okay. They either got to win the next game or they're gonna have to go back home down 3-2 and win the next two in a row, with Game 7 being on the road. So.
Yeah.
I still have concerns about it. Like, there was, I mean, I like the way the Warriors played in Game 3. They really looked like the Warriors. There was a lot of activity on offense and defense. They're moving the ball around. Steph Curry was making stuff happen, not just hitting threes. He was getting to the basket. Um, yeah, I like that. But again, I'm like, yeah, they're at home. Like they play really well at home. They've not been good on the road. I still need to see it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and we'll move on to the Kings Warriors. Like, yeah, no, I agree with you. It's hard to win a series when you have to score at least 120 points to beat the other team. It's hard to do. And, it's like funny, I'm watching the game today and, amazing, first of all, amazing game. The Kings just, they made a few too many mistakes to put themselves, but they were in position at the end and Harrison Barnes had an open shot to win the game. So they were right there, but this series is really evenly matched because neither team was really good on defense. And both teams can really score. And Sacramento was struggling shooting threes, but not today. Today they made a whole bunch of them. So if that's going to be the case, like, man, yeah, maybe the Warriors can win the series, but man, this is going to be difficult. And the Kings have played better than I thought they would. Today they kind of looked like a young team, but they've got a few games here to figure it out. So we'll see what happens if that next game, if Golden State if the Sacramento wins Game 5, this might be tough for the Warriors to pull this off. I would think with their experience, it'll eventually show up and eventually they'll win. But I don't feel good. I wouldn't feel good about that. I'm not convinced about it. Like the Warriors still have really too many turnovers. They do dumb things sometimes. Steph called timeout when they didn't have any timeouts.
I mean, like, what was that?
So it's like it's a little disturbing how, I mean, the Warriors were always kind of sloppy even when they were winning championships, but now they don't have that kind of margin for error, so it's pretty difficult. Yeah. But Steph pulled him out of it today. Every time he was open in the second half and needed a three, he pretty much got it. Yeah. But that being said, unbelievable series. Like, hopefully this goes 7. And the other thing is, like, how you telling me the Warriors are going to go 7 games in this series and then they're going to, like, it's hard for me to believe, same thing with Phoenix. It's just hard for me to believe that those teams are going to be able to get through 3 series to get to the finals.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing there. But I'm going to gloat for a second. How about my Denver Nuggets?
Did they win? Did they close out the series, or is it the last game tonight?
It's tonight, yeah.
Okay.
So they're up 3-0. Okay, they've looked really good. They had one bad quarter against Minnesota where they got lit up pretty good, but other than that, Jamal Murray looks like Jamal Murray from the bubble again. Fine. I knew that was. I was hoping that was going to happen, and it looks like it did. And so, I mean, they look like they're going to sweep Minnesota. And, it's a good thing Phoenix has a chance to get rid of this Clippers series quickly because I really like Denver's chances. Like you got all
Yeah.
these guys for Phoenix playing all these minutes, and Phoenix has all these guys they can throw at everybody. So and you
Yeah.
know, Jokic is not about athleticism. It's not like Jokic is going to be out there getting tired. Like he does the same stuff, you know, no
Yeah.
matter who's out there. So it's not like so. You know, I think. You know, hate to say I told you so, but you know, everybody's like, oh, I don't know, Nuggets,
Everybody's just they're
whatever.
ignoring them. They're not thinking. And it's like, okay, like just and Denver's going about their business. So it's like, you know what? If they've got the most. I mean, they've got the most continuity of any of the teams in the West. Okay,
Yep.
they
And we've
know
watched.
exactly. They know what they are. They know what they need to do. They know how they need to play. Like, and that's something that. I mean, the Warriors can't exactly say that. They've been kind of trying to figure stuff out. They've had guys in and out of the lineup. I mean, the Lakers, they just put this thing together. The the Suns, I mean, Durant's played what, 11 games?
Yep.
Like, so it, you know, that matters on some level. You know, I mean, again, it's Denver. You know, we still kind of need to see more. I mean, we've seen them make the conference finals, but we kind of still need to see more. But it's like, I mean, why the hell not? Why couldn't they make it through? You know, given the issues that these other teams have. I mean, if LeBron, like if the Denver ends up having to play the Lakers, like, you know, is LeBron still going to be kind of passively just going about getting his numbers, or are we going to see more old LeBron? Like, you know,
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like before the playoffs, you know, everybody's kind of dismissing Denver, and then you watch this first round, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I don't really know that I believe in the Warriors or the Suns or the Lakers. Like I have concerns about all of them. Wow, look at Denver. I know Denver's playing Minnesota, but look, Minnesota's really talented. Like for Minnesota have not gotten a game yet in this series. I mean, that says something to me.
well, I mean, the first two games, I mean, they just rolled over them. I mean, it wasn't even close. So
Yeah, yeah, and they survived a 40-point game by Anthony Edwards, and
yeah,
so anyway, yeah, look out for the Nuggets. The Knicks and the Cavs. I'm really this is the one series that kind of surprised me. I thought the Cavaliers were just a better team, and the Knicks are just punking them. I mean, they're more physical, they're tougher. You know, they're playing harder on defense. You know, the Knicks even when they get kind of flustered on offense, Brunson kind of bails them out. So yeah, I just I'm surprised. I know the Knicks are up 3-1. I don't think it's over yet. I still think Cleveland has a shot. But it does show that Cleveland doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. But Cleveland's got the right guys. The Garland and Mitchell are fabulous. So I think it's I'm happy for the Knicks, but it's kind of like I'm kind of surprised that they're playing this well. I don't think the Knicks are overly talented, so I don't think they're going to be able to go even if they win this round. I don't think they're going to go much past that, but you got to give the Knicks credit. They've played their butts
well,
off.
I'll say this. Okay, look, I understand that Giannis isn't play now. If the Bucks win their series, they would, and then the Knicks win theirs, then they would play each other in the next round, right?
Right.
Right. So okay, I mean Miami's has a paucity of talent, okay,
Right.
and they're and even with I understand they don't have Giannis, but they're still like they're playing pretty. The Heat are playing pretty well on defense. They're really active, and so that just leads me to believe that like okay, if Giannis is hobbled a little bit or not fully himself, remember the Bucks have the same issues they had when they won the championship. And before that, I mean, the same issues. They give up a lot of open threes. They kind of, there's games you're like, what the hell is going on? And then the next game they just play a little harder, you know. So if you're telling me that like the Knicks can go to the next round and just, be really physical and have a lot of activity on defense, then they could maybe make that a series, you know. And look, they won't have the home court advantage, but the games in New York, I mean, that's Knicks fans have been waiting. Seemingly, they're waiting forever for the Knicks to ever be good. So, like, you know, so I think that would be pretty. That would be a really fun series. I would still pick the Bucks, but again, like, the Bucks got some issues. When is Giannis coming back? And Middleton is not. I don't know what's going on with Middleton. He's not really himself. So
Yeah, it's The Bucks have some issues, and even when the season's over, they're probably gonna have to address some things. But yeah, that it's listen, the Knicks are not gonna give it to you. You're gonna have to beat them.
Which it's
They're
a
not gonna
Thibodeau team, so of course,
right. Yeah, makes perfect sense. The Knicks may burn out in 2 or 3 more games, but
yeah, pretty
you
much,
know,
yeah.
they're, but they're gonna be there. All I put down for the Celtics and the Hawks is, look, the Celtics need to quit screwing around, get this thing over with. You can't let Atlanta score 130 points on you. Like, what are we doing? So the Celtics need to win this thing in 5, get it over with, get it out of the way, and get ready for Philadelphia. Like, this is, to me, the biggest issue I have with the Celtics is, like, guys, you gotta be there. You gotta, every game, you gotta bring it. And there's no excuses. You have plenty of guys. You're plenty deep enough. You're really good on defense. So, that's what I'm hoping happens there. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I've really enjoyed it. I think the playoffs have been pretty good. I mean, it's disappointing that we didn't get some more competitive. Some of the series could have been a little more competitive, but I feel like Warriors Kings will provide us enough entertainment, up into next weekend. So that should be really fascinating. But yeah, no, I'm still sticking to Denver going to the finals, and if you made me again, you put a gun to my head, I would probably pick Milwaukee, but I don't feel fantastic about it at this point. I don't see how you could.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right. Anything else?
No, I don't know. Yesterday I was watching a segment on Rich Eisen's show. He had Joel Klatt on there, and he was talking about working with Gus Johnson, which that was pretty cool. He's just like, yeah, Gus Johnson's awesome, and he's telling him about, like, Joel Klatt's like trying to take advice from him on being a better broadcaster. It's just like, don't trip the rope. Like, if you're like it's like when you have you got the main guy, and then you got the the analyst guy, and it's like, you kind of go back and forth, and it's like, don't trip the guy up or whatever. And then he's like, and then Joel Klatt's like, yeah, sometimes I'll get a little too into the weeds. And Gus Johnson's like, hey, we're trying to make stars here, okay? No one cares about the offensive linemen. It's, people care about cornerbacks and quarterbacks and receivers and stuff. I don't know. It was kind of cool. So
yeah, and Gus Johnson's been calling some of the NBA playoff games. So I haven't seen a whole lot of it. I saw a little bit of one of the Nuggets games he called, but Gus Johnson calling basketball is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm really that's really been fun to watch. As always, Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson are usually pretty entertaining. They were calling the Knicks game today, which was perfect. Mike Breen, I think, calls the games for the Knicks regularly, and
Right.
Van Gundy used to be the coach of the Knicks. Mark Jackson played for the Knicks, so it worked out very well. And Stephen A. Smith in the studio going insane about how happy he is the Knicks won. That was pretty entertaining. He was losing his mind. I love this team so much. I love this team.
Yeah.
It was great.
They've been. I mean, like, it's hilarious because you have to be you have to be our age or older to remember the Knicks being good. Like, it's literally like people don't understand this. Like throughout the '90s, they were good. They were really good. They made the finals. Like, they made the finals twice. I'm sorry, in 94 and 99.
99.
Yeah. So, like, it's just people don't, like, the Knicks have just been a dumpster fire for over 20 years. So it's like people don't remember. It's like, I remember the Knicks actually being good.
Yeah, the Heat were pretty good too.
Yeah,
it was.
Back in the 90s, they had a whole rivalry. So
Yeah, the Knicks were. They were in championship contention 6 or 7 years in a row. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, that was cool to see the Garden happy again and people going nuts. And I think honestly, Jalen, just as far as a fit goes, whatever you think of him as a player, Jalen Brunson is perfect for the Knicks. He looks like an old school New York point guard. That's how he plays, and it's literally like, if you're going to central casting, like, it's perfect for that guy to be playing for the Knicks. I think, and it makes me think, like, the Knicks should have been focused more on who fits with us rather than let's get the best player. I think they might have been better off if they'd have just focused on who's gonna work in New York. And yes, I know Donovan Mitchell's better, and I'm sure they wish they would have gotten Mitchell instead of Brunson. But as far as fit goes, Brunson is perfect, absolutely perfect for them. All right, folks, make sure you like, subscribe, and tune in, send us a comment, whatever it is, and look forward to more basketball. See everybody later.